title of this presentation is Not So Puny Code, and it's presented by your boy. So first, who am I? My name is Brandon Dossantos. I am a fourth-year BSMS CompSec student. I've done the following. I've done UV Lockdown. I've done ICE-TS. I'm not sure what year. I think about 3 years or 2 years ago. I was white team the first year, and the second year was blue team, and I earned a third place. Woo. Next, CCD last year. I was the, so we went to regionals, first of all. Woo. And also I was the Inja captain for the team. And I was also Sparta's e-board. I was the public relations of last year. And also, I might have been your TA. So if I'm your TA, raise your hand. Wow. You got an A. You got an A. You got an A. All right, cool. I like automation. I like threat hunting, coming up with detection capabilities, and lastly, I like you. Thank you. So let's cover up what's going to be covered in the future for this presentation. I'm going to make this presentation sort of like a white paper, so you have different headers and different topics. So first, we're going to go for the abstract of the paper. Yeah, this is so weird. Like, why make a white paper presentation? The introduction of Unicode, the theory behind it, behind my research of Unicode, examples of Unicode, what's under the hood, specifically DNS and browsers, our test cases I'm going to show you today, countermeasures, my first experiment, my second experiment, and lastly, a conclusion, a very short conclusion. So for the abstract. Internationalized domain names have introduced a new threat, right? That's the abstract. They're known, Unicode specifically is known to development, but it's fairly new to average users, I mean, visually. Also, the encoding. So a victim is unlike a fraudulent Unicode domain, just surfing the net or clicking on a link in a phishing email. So Unicode, you can see them in websites, you can see them in emails, specific links in emails, also the email itself. So this creates a perfect platform for phishing. They're just absolutely great. So the introduction of Unicode. First, it was introduced in 2007, where ICANN organization introduced Unicode characters within domain names. Before 2007, all you could use is ASCII characters. And then 2007, it was like, all right, let's include Unicode. I was like, OK, cool. Let's see what happens with that. First term is homoglyph. It's the adding and replacing of a Unicode character in a word or domain. And a homograph is where a word looks like another word, right? So this is where the theory of Unicode comes in as a malicious attack vector. So Unicode, the way of converting words that can't be written in ASCII, like Chinese lettering, Russian lettering as domains, into ASCII. First, we want to identify that there is a prefix for Unicode. The prefix is $. This is amongst all Unicode domains. So this indicates that Unicode is here, it's present. Then you have the suffix. And the suffix is calculated by the RFC, where it tells you the location of the Unicode character within the domain, also what Unicode character it actually is. I'll show you an example. So it's a bunch of question marks right now, but we'll see. So the theory behind this presentation and research. We want to observe patterns or characteristics of Unicode domains so that you can create passive and active detection. And lastly, faster response or investigation. All right, so examples. So this is an article by Semantic, specifically Chris Larson, and he goes over these Unicode domains and their usages and such and whatnot. So specifically here, my first example is pokertv.com, right? In all ASCII, in regular domain ASCII, you have pokertv.com, but here you have an O with a tick. This is represented, since it's Unicode, that one character, this way in Unicode. This is the Unicode column, and this is the visual representation with Unicode. You may see this in your browser, but modern browsers like Chrome and Firefox allow for this version to be shown, so a user cannot be tricked easily. Another example that I really like is this one right here, where there's a comma and a space and a domain itself. This is really good as an attacker if you embed this link or this website into an email, because it looks like a regular comma, space, and then the domain. So you click on it, and you just get redirected to the domain. There's actually this one right here. Along with Microsoft, this one is all benign besides that one Unicode character. And another supplement here is that if there's one character or any characters that are Unicode in the domain, they won't be present. For example, the O is not here. Suffix tells you that it's an O with the little tick and the location of it, which is the second character in. For example, Microsoft, it's untouched. But this tells you it's the first character in the domain, and it's weird, whatever it says. So quickly, under the hood with DNS. So DNS, it is responsible for turning domain names into IP addresses, fairly simple. And we were restricted to that limited subset of ASCII characters until 2007 happened, right? Tragedy. So this is the flow of how you would kind of register a foreign international domain. Let's say you want to register Boucher.ch. It gets translated to Unicode. Then these two get combined together because this is a U with two dots on the top. There you have this. Then this gets ripped apart and interpreted as its Unicode subset. Great. Does that make sense so far? Right? OK, browsers. Many web browsers actually show you the X and double dash. But evidently, most actually don't. Modern do. They're catching up. So hackers can actually exploit the display to show you domain names that are for legitimate services when they're actually malicious. So this here, we have apple.com, what looks like apple.com, but this L is the Unicode character. You see even a padlock here. It doesn't really matter, though. You can see the page info where the website says apple.com, but what you really need to see is the certificate. Who's issued to? The common name. And it's X and double dash. You see the Unicode there. And that's where you're like, uh-oh, there's no correlation there. Something's going on. A user on his Microsoft Surface, a natural victim, would click on this link in an email, apple.com. As you can see here, it looks like apple.com, but the L is Unicode. Do you see that? Goes to the DNS server. DNS server returns the address for X and double dash. And the web server, behind the scenes, you get a GET request for X and double dash. So what happens is that behind the scenes, X and double dash is being used. Unicode is everywhere behind the scenes. But for the user, all he or she sees is apple.com with that slight tick. Another example, in real life, you get an email, and the link says Rolex.com. You see what's going on here. You probably can't see back there, but the L, wow, it's super small, has a small slash on it. Or you can get a WhatsApp-like message, and the domain says Rolex, but slight dash here. That redirected to a phishing website where you can put in your credit card and you get screwed. So for our test cases, first of all, where can you gather test cases? Anywhere, honestly, anywhere. There's proxy logs, DNS logs, bro logs, XN 509 certificates as well. You can get any of these domains. I'm going to show you my real test cases in a second. So go for the first experiment, which is banning Unicode itself, not the whole entire Unicode, but specifically blocks and categories of Unicode. And I'll show you in a second. And secondly is experiment number 2, which is the fixed suffix. We're going to investigate if we can find a pattern within the Unicode, specifically the suffix, and countermeasure. All right, so let's get into a demo for banning Unicode. So first off, this is my subset, my test cases, sorry. All these domains are popular. Can you see that? They're all different renditions of popular domains. One that's really difficult for me to depict was this K here. Right, this one is slightly taller. Is it a kappa? Okay, and so Bittrex, you got Cisco, Coinbase, and so on and so on. This is all my test cases for this experiment. Okay, so banning Unicode. There's this project that I found on GitHub that allows you to look up a Unicode character and get properties. And these properties include blocks and categories of the character itself. So, for example, if you were to look up 00C0, it'll return you the properties of that Unicode character, Latin capital letter A with grave, right? Cool. So now we have properties, and we're able to kind of put the band hammer on specific properties. Okay, so I'm running that project against my list of Unicode domains, the ones I just showed you, the ones in the background, actually. What I have it do is it's going to print out the categories and the frequencies, and also the blocks and frequencies. And let me supplement that real quick. So Unicode here on the web page, there's so many different Unicode types. And you have Latin specifically here. And these are all blocks. Within them are categories, and each letter has its own category. So Latin extended A, letter B with a little tilde on top, right? If we quickly look into this one here, this is extended A. I mean, honestly, I don't like half of these. Most of these are probably going to be used in like Spanish words. So depends on where your nodes are, but I really don't like any of these. So we could possibly ban, theoretically, those characters. So we see here, against my whole list of domains, the most common is Latin small letter O, which makes sense. It's a vowel. A, E, O, T, and S. So those make sense. But once you start hitting beyond the basic Latin block, you start hitting things like O with diaresis. I looked it up. It was like O with 2 dots on top. All right, that's Cyrillic, I believe. And then you start getting deeper and deeper, and you start noticing that upon this test cases, there's weird shit going on. And you want to ban that if you look specifically into here. For example, like, what is this? This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen, like an F with this little hook. And then if you look down here, these are the blocks. The most common is basic Latin. Makes sense. Ooh, we can't see that. There we go. Whatever. And then you have one supplement extended A, and so on. Cool. We have some properties. We have some stats. We can actually go ahead and start banning categories and blocks of specific characters. In this use case, you would go ahead and iterate through every character of a domain, and you will look up its properties, figure out that it belongs to this certain block, then look at your blacklist and be like, oh, this is not a good character. Let's ban it or stop the process of going to the website. Pros of this is that you can do granular filtering. You can actually go deep and ban specific things. The con, slight opposite. Using this Unicode process, go through every character, find the properties, and put it against the blacklist. It's high maintenance. You gotta keep up with the blacklist and make sure you maintain that whole list. So in experiment 2, I'm going to demo it again, but we're going to look into a fixed suffix. Right? Before you saw the X and double dash, that's a prefix. But the suffix is what determines where and what the Unicode character is. Okay, so our first question is, can we identify how many Unicode characters there are in a domain by observing the patterns within that ASCII domain, right? Specifically, we're looking at the suffix. Pandas and plotly stuff. If we have one Unicode character, just one, it might be indicative of homograph. Like we said before, is where a word looks like another word. And by observing patterns, we can filter it, parsing the domain and kind of taking the suffix and putting it under a microscope. Let's skip that. Cool. A chart. So the x-axes are all tuples. The left side of the tuple is how many Unicode characters there are within a domain. And the right side is the suffix length, right? What we have here is that it's a really high correlation of one Unicode character to 3. So when a domain passes through the router or gets into your logs in Splunk, you can look at the domain and say, hey, what's the length of the suffix? If it's 3, it's most indicative that it's a one Unicode character only. With my test cases, all of them are malicious because they're all homograph of a popular domain with Unicode. So all of these are valid, just that which one's strong, which ones do you actually want to use in production? And last, plot, which that the x-axis is the Unicode character count, and the y is the suffix length. As you can see, 1 has 3 and 4. What do you think 2 has? If 1 has 3, do you think 2 has 6? No, 2 has 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? So it gets really strange. So we might as well just chop this all out and focus on 1 and 3 and make sure and really focus on that 1 and 3 worst case / best case. Sense? Cool. So the pros on this is lower overhead compared to our first experiment, right? All we have to do is check if there's one character, and we don't have to check it against a blacklist. So technically, there's low overhead, lower maintenance. We don't have a blacklist to control. It's that there's many false positives, right? You're including a subset like Spanish words in your 1 and 3s. Like, not all Spanish words. Domains, other than Cyrillic and Roman. And lastly, we have a lot of missed true positives. All others, 1 and 3s, 1 and 4s, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7s, all those are missed. So we're missing a lot. And in conclusion, fish bait is hard to detect, right? Emails, it's really hard. You just can easily be manipulated in this case using Unicode. Response matters. Whether you do this actively or whether or not you do this offline using a Splunk server, right? You get all your logs and start reaping through. The thing about that is that you'll be reaping through every day, maybe every 30 days, and then it'll detect. But instead, you might want it now. You might want it active. And lastly, IDNs are not malicious. It's the abuse of these domains. And I want to ask, what do you think what's your favorite solution for this one? Maybe it's not even experiment 1 or 2. Maybe it's a different experiment. What do you think? And like for COM, you would do like ASCII or like Spanish, like Latin supplement stuff.
For .com, they've already allowed it. You can't undo that.
Yeah, right. That's a good idea though. Anyone know? Anyone else?
It'd be cool to see if you could do this in your DNS server.
The DNS server?
That would just slow things down really bad.
That's a slight overhead you have, so sometimes it's pretty good to do it offline. But if you do it actively, that's where you get the. Anyone else?
I mean, you talk talking about like an American company, you're probably not going to expect your employees to be going to like a Chinese website.
Mhm.
If they are, that might raise a couple questions.
For sure.
So you could just ban all Unicode domains and then allow them on a case-by-case basis.
So in that case-by-case basis is that you still have like Spanish domains, right? There's still a large population of Latinos, right, who just surf the net. Thing is that if you have international nodes, you're going to get a lot of noise that's just pure Unicode. So in your case, that's kind of tough.
It's a small.
I did see, though, a few applications, real life, is that Southwest.com or Rolex.com, BMW, those are the phishing domains you'll see. And so those are the ones with the Unicode and Punicode. So those are dangerous ones, actual dangerous ones.
What if you wrote like a Chrome extension that could like do it? That way.
I think there is, for
If
sure.
you deploy that on your endpoint, you wouldn't be crashing necessarily.
No, for sure, I think so. Yeah. I gotta investigate and see if there's actually one for that, but that'll be nice, like
But I don't know.
proactive.
Yeah, I don't know if the JavaScript. I don't know what it can.
Right.
You could do it.
Yep.
I remember seeing it for still at least alert me that.
You're visiting. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like modern browsers show you X and double dash. Got to keep up though. Any questions? That's it. Cool. Thank you guys.